In this video, we'll be going over default chart options. Now, this is the second video of 3. If you have not had the opportunity to watch the first one, we recommend that you do so before continuing on. Let's click on Configure, Preferences, then Chart, and then Options. And the fields below here will allow us to adjust the default settings for charts. In the first video, we covered the first column. We'll be covering the second column in this video. We left off in the first video with Show Crosshair, which we can see right here. Now, by clicking Global Crosshair and clicking Apply, the crosshair now shows across multiple charts. If we go back, Configure, Preferences, Chart, Options, if we select Double Crosshair and then click Apply, you'll notice now that the vertical lines in the crosshair, there are 2 of them now. And if we select Solid Crosshair and then select Apply, we now have solid lines in the crosshair instead of the dashed lines. Next, we have Auto Scale and Auto Scale Price Only and Semi-Log Scale. So let's take a look at that. They're presently selected. Let's go over to the chart. Now you'll notice here, if I check the scaling on the chart, we have Auto Scale and Auto Scale Price Only selected. And what Auto Scale does is it ensures that the price is always visible on the chart from high to low and in between. And it does that by automatically adjusting the price scale. Now, if we have Auto Scale Price Only selected, then if we have any components drawn on the chart above the high or below the low, then they will not be taken into consideration. If we then unselect it and select only Auto Scale, you'll notice now that the horizontal line component shows. This is because this is also now being taken into consideration with Auto Scale. And at the bottom right here, we have the semi-log scale option available. So let's go back to Configure, Preferences, Chart, Options. Here we have Lock Scroll, which allows us to move more than one chart in tandem. We also have Lock Studies, which allows us to lock studies to a chart. So then when we change symbols, those studies will carry over to the new chart. So let's take a look at that. Click Apply, OK. Let's head on over here. So now you'll notice if I move my 1-hour chart, the 15-minute chart moves accordingly because of lock scroll. If I place a study, actually let's place 2 studies here. And now I switch symbol. The studies carry over because we've had lock studies on. Let's go back, Configure, Preferences, Chart, Options. We also have lock bar size. Now, let me show you how it works when it's not selected. Here we have a 15-minute and a 1-hour chart. If I switch symbols, we have the 1-hour and 15-minute chart. If I were to change this to a 20-minute chart, or let's say even a 5-minute chart, if we go to Apple now, it still remembers the last setting for Apple, which was a 1-hour and a 15-minute. And Microsoft will have the 1-hour and the 5-minute. However, if I go back, Configure Preferences, Chart Options, and then select Lock Bar Size, click Apply, OK. Let's say I were to make a change, a 1-minute chart. Now when I go over to Apple, the bar sizes are locked, and now you have the 1 minute here instead of the bar size that was there before. Let's go over to Configure, Preferences, Chart, Options. Next we have Show Info on Select. And what that does is it turns on the Show Info feature when selecting a component. And we have the Show Info, which enables the Show Info feature when creating a new component. So let me show you the behavior without them selected. Let's click OK. Now if I were to select, let's go over to Microsoft. If I were to select a trend line, and then a horizontal line, you'll notice here there's no info. If I select it, there's no info. I'm not talking about the pop-up box. I mean on the actual line itself, the component itself. If I go back, configure preferences, and then select chart options, and now select show info on select and show info, click apply. Now if I select it, you'll notice you'll see the information. And if I drag a new one, it now shows the info. So this is show info on select, and because this was a new component, it shows info on the new component. Let's go back, configure, preferences, chart, options. We have show range outline, and this turns on the range outline on the latest bar for the range Renko bars. Click apply, OK. Let's go over, and you'll notice here on this Renko chart we have the outline showing. If we go back to configure preferences, chart options, we have here show middle line, and this turns on the display of the middle line for channel components. So actually let's go back here. Here we have a channel. If we select configure preferences, go back to chart and then options, if we select show middle line, we click apply, you now see the middle line. Here we have the show bar size selector, and this is the bar size selector here at the bottom. If it's selected, we'll see it. If it's unselected, we won't see it. And we have here the link, minimize, and restore. If this is enabled for any link chart windows, all the windows in the group will be minimized when one of them is minimized. And when one of them is restored, they will all be restored. So let's take a look at that one. So if we bring up these two windows here, you'll notice they're both part of the same group, in this case the green linked group. Now if I minimize one, you'll notice they both minimize. If I bring one of them up, then they'll both come up. So if we go back to configure, preferences, chart, options, we have here confirm on close selected. And what that does is if it's enabled, it will display a warning message when closing a chart window. So let's take a look at that. Let's bring back up one of those windows. And now if we try to close it, here's a confirmation message. Close chart. Are you sure you want to close the chart? In this case, we select yes. We select yes. And that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next.